All right, well, let's go ahead and kick us off here. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jeannie Borum. I'm part of the corporate team here at Signworld, and I will be the moderator for our session today. For those of you who are joining us for the first time or may not have watched a recorded session in the past, just a really quick overview of what to expect for this next hour. The first moment here will be having each of the owners who are part of our panel today give a brief introduction of themselves, their business, and a little bit about their background, so you better understand a little bit more about them. And then we turn the floor over to our participants who have joined us, who are considering Signworld as a future business, to allow each of you to ask a single question of our owners who will individually respond. So you'll get multiple responses to each of your questions. Depending on the number of participants, we might have time for you to ask a second question, but we do ask you to keep it to a single one at each time, just to give everyone an opportunity to ask questions throughout the session today. So with that said, let's turn the floor over to our owners to do their brief introductions of themselves. I'll go in order of years in business with Signworld. So we'll go to our newest owner, Jason. Can you go ahead and give us an introduction?
Sure. My name is Jason Randall. I own City Beautiful Signs and Graphics in Orlando, Florida. We've been in business. It'll be 2 years in April that I signed up with Signworld. Our facility is 2,500 square feet. I have 2 full-time employees plus my wife and myself in the office. Our sales for 2023 was $290,000. Our projected sales for 2024 is $600,000. Our biggest customer to date is a roofing company that we did a lot of their fleet graphics. We did about $60,000 worth of business with them last year, but I just signed a contract with a apartment complex that's we're doing rebranding their facility, and that's $100,000. I'm just waiting on the deposit check to come in, and then we'll start the fabrication and installation of that one. My background was I was in records management. We did hard copy file storage for different companies around town. I did that for a little over 20 years.
Awesome. Thanks for the introduction. And since it's January, what are we at? We're at January 10th, and you got a 100K order in the door. I think you need to up your 2024 target there, Jason.
Well, we'll see.
Very good. Thanks for that introduction. I appreciate it. I don't know who's been in business longer, Des or Don? I can't remember. I think Des is less than Don, but Des, when did you start your business?
2016.
All right, you're next.
All right, Des Laffin, Carolina Custom Signs and Graphics. Been in business about 7.5 years. Just moved into a facility that my wife and I own and lease back to the sign company. We're in about 6,000 square feet, and very happy to finally have some room to spread out. My last facility was 3,000 square feet, and I didn't have an office. We just had, cubicle walls, and there's no privacy. But so it's been wonderful for a lot of reasons. We've got 8 employees. Last year we did a little bit over 1.3. This year we're targeting hopefully 1.6. And we've got some good strategic sales initiatives. Biggest customer, I think, was on this list of questions. We do a lot of business. We picked up a company called Safeguard, and they make like work shoes, work boots, and they actually sell them out of trucks that they own and operate all over the country. So their trucks are continuously getting rebranded, full graphics on the side. So there are right now our largest account. Background for me, I was in pharmaceutical printed packaging for a good 24-year span. At one time, I owned and operated a small flexo printing business that did labels for pharmaceutical companies, and we just kind of grew and expanded and had a long, good career there. So I thought there was a lot of transferable, knowledge that I could bring to this business. I'm not sure I was right about that, but yeah, and I guess that's about it.
All right, very good. And congrats on the new building. I'll have to come visit. I remember your old space, and I was going to say your background there definitely looks a lot different. So congrats. That's a big change.
Thank you.
Very good. All right, Mr. Conklin, let you go next.
We are Pinnacle Custom Size. Teresa and I own the company. 23 employees. We're in Buford, Georgia, which is outside of Atlanta. Looking at doing 6 million this year. Facilities 12,375 square feet. Biggest customer is a storage company called Midgard Storage. Did over $1 million with them last year. And my background is I was in telecom for 25 years.
So Don, I have to ask, I thought I saw an announcement that Teresa was retiring. Are you still saying she's in the business, or what's the official word there?
She is retired, but she is doing the HR from home because
Okay.
she will not give it up.
Okay.
So
Fair
she doesn't want to be totally retired. I kicked her out of the building kicking and screaming, quite frankly, but you know, she is doing payroll, and that's about it from that standpoint. But she is officially retired.
Well, that's the beauty of being a business owner, is being able to kind of do little pieces and parts still. So that's great. All right, let's go to Jack next for an introduction.
Let's go back to Don for a second. Don, how many weeks of vacation you plan this year, and what about your two boys in the business?
So we're probably going to do 10 weeks of vacation this year. We were going to Africa, but unfortunately, Teresa has to have her hip replaced. So I think that takes precedent over lions and tigers and bears like that. Yeah, about 10 weeks of vacation this year. And my boys, I have 4 sons. My 2 youngest ones run the business for us. One has the operations side. The other has the sales and marketing and design side of it. So.
Very good. So I'm Jack Werner. I joined Signworld 28 years ago as an operation. Back then, we were a little different. We were a retail, a banner shop. We didn't have digital printing. We used the yellow pages, and quite different business model than we have today. I started in 1,100 square feet with 1 employee. 10 years later, I was in 5,000 square feet with staff of 11, doing about 1.3 in revenue. I then sold that operation, joined our founder and former president at corporate office, learning his end of the business, finished buying him out in 2014. I'm now the president owner of Signworld. So when I answer questions today, it'll go from one of several perspectives. It might go from my experience doing it, just pull a general answer from the population, or if it goes to training and policy, speak from the corporate side.
Very good. Thank you, Jack.
Prior to that, I ran a wholesale food distribution company. My largest customer was a regional developer for Subway with about 230 locations. I did $250,000 per year with that Subway operator.
Yeah, sorry for that interruption. I forget that you had a former career before Signworld because you've been here for so long. So my apologies on that. All right, well, now the fun part. We're going to turn the floor over to our guests who have joined us today. Again, I'll call you by name. Take yourself off of mute. Please share your location, where you're geographically located, and give us a single question. Mark Greenlee, I'm going to start with you first. If you can go ahead and take yourself off mute.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Sure can.
Yeah, I guess maybe my one question is to the business owners, just about lead generation, right? What have you found to be the areas in the manner by which you procure the opportunities to sell the services you provide?
Great question. Always a key question of how you're going to acquire your customers. Jason, being newest in the business, I'll start with you first.
Website. Signworld has a couple of preferred vendors that they highly recommend getting the website launched as quickly as possible. And I get 90 to 95% of my leads through my website.
Where do the other 5 or 10% come from? Do you do any type of networking activities, Jason?
Yeah, I do some networking with BNI. And then we're also a member of the chamber, but BNI has been more beneficial for us. Then the other 5% probably comes from the repeat business that we've gotten over the last year. So hopefully that number will continue to increase and we can join the Don Conklins of the world.
All right, very good. Des, is this 8? Am I counting it right? 8 years in business then?
Yeah, 7.5, I think I'll call it.
All right. So how did you get your business in the beginning and how are you getting new business today?
Yeah, well, when we started, I mean, we got off in 2016, and at the time, the kind of the charge was get your website up and then blog, become a subject matter expert, drive traffic to your website. So I did that along with BNI and other networking groups, and I think that the early on the BNI was more effective in producing work than the other. About a year and a half before I got smart enough to really start investing in some web marketing. So we used at the time, Mark My Words Media was a company that some of my mastermind fellows were working with, and they were having some good early success. So we jumped on with them, and we've been with them ever since. I mean, through the good and the bad of it. At the end of the day, they do generate. We get a lot of phone calls, we get a lot of forms. It's really the fuel that drives our business growth. We've got some other areas that we're venturing into now that we're hoping are going to get us some different types of success. But we're, like I said earlier, we're going after some strategic markets, one of which is multifamily housing. And with that, we're working with a company called Build Central, really just paying for. They gather information about project starts, construction projects, all kinds of different areas, not just multifamily housing. And so we pay them to get access to North Carolina based activity, and that information is terrific. So we're kind of in the early stages of trying to use that and proactively go after those opportunities. We haven't really developed a strategy that we can say we feel confident with, but we're engaged with it, and we think we're going to have a lot of success with that. But yeah, web marketing's been our kind of our big one.
Where are you at for repeat business now, being 7 years in business? What % of your annual revenue is repeat?
Well, we have a hard time measuring that exactly because we switched from Corebridge to Shopbox. We lost some information, and anyway, but we think it's somewhere in the 65% range of repeat, like order of what orders are from repeat customers.
Very good. That's fantastic. Thank you, Des.
Mhm.
Don?
Starting out, it was mainly networking meetings, and then the website got up, so it was networking and marketing and the website, and then it was referrals from existing customers. So today, 85% of my revenue is from existing customers, and of the other 15%, half is referrals from existing customers, and the other half is from website leads.
Very good. Thank you. Jack?
I think they've answered all pretty well. It's networking in the beginning while the internet takes over, and then it's the repeats and referrals. The business becomes pretty self-driving.
Absolutely. Very good. Okay, let's go to our next participant. Bill, if you could take yourself off of mute, tell the group where you're located, and go ahead with a question for today.
Hi, my name's Bill Degnan. I'm located just outside of Philadelphia in a suburb. I'm relatively new to this. Met with Jeannie last week, so thank you for inviting me. Obviously, lead generation would be number one to me, but also what's going through my head is, what do you view as the biggest threat to your business? I think of, just what I mean by that is you can roll it back, think of people that had a payphone route, technology took over that. I know somebody that got into the dry cleaning business right before the pandemic. So, people that used to get their shirts dry cleaned 5 days a week now get it done 3 times every 2 weeks. So, I'm kind of looking like, what would you view as a threat to this business?
Yeah, that's a really good question, especially like you said, coming out of the pandemic, it's always a concern. Let's go in reverse order. Don's been part of this business for the longest period of time. Don, what would you say you feel might be a threat to the sign industry overall? And how did you do through COVID and the pandemic since?
I would say complacency is probably the number one threat to the business. I mean, there's so many signs out there that there's enough business for everybody to have businesses. So again, the opportunity, as they used to say in Top Gun, it's a target-rich environment. And if you're complacent about it, you can lose out. The other one closely linked to that might be employees and keeping good employees and we tend to treat our employees very well, because without our employees, then we can't deliver the service. Through COVID, we grew about 3%. I mean, obviously it wasn't the greatest time, but we did grow 3% through the pandemic. But, at the end of the day, and this is what sold Teresa and I on the business, is that every business needs a sign, right? Whether it's on their building, whether it's on their vehicle, whether it's at a trade show, whether it's at a golf tournament, every business needs a sign. Even if you're going out of business, you need a going out of business sign, right? And it's not rocket science how you make it. So at the end of the day, if you can, keep driving the business and have good employees to deliver on, your promise of service, then there's nothing that really is going to stop the business except for yourself.
So just to add to that, if I remember your numbers correctly, you were around 4.5 million, I think, in the COVID time period, and you said 6 is your target now. So you're still thriving and still finding new business since, correct?
Oh yeah. I mean, we at the end of the day, when you get to be our size, you have some customers that drive it. Like, we did 5 million in 2022, and one of those customers was 1.4 million. That customer only did 500,000 last year, so we had to replace that 900,000 plus another million more. So, it's a matter of, constantly striving to generate more activity from that standpoint.
Have you always had year-over-year growth? I'm just curious if you've ever had a decline year-over-year.
Decline?
I'm
That
just curious.
doesn't
Just a
sound
question.
right. Come on.
Just asking.
No, COVID was our lowest growth year, but we've been double digits until we got to be as large as we are. To do double digits now would be, $1 million growth every year. So,
Well, leave it to your boys. It just might happen. We'll see. All right, very good. Let's go to Des. Des, you were in business before and after the COVID pandemic. Have you seen shifts? What do you see as threats to the industry overall?
Yeah, I was just looking at our pre-COVID. I mean, we grew 22% in 2019 over 2018, and 24% in 2020 over 20, and then 44%. We've just been on a really, nice, steady growth path. So we were just growing through COVID. I think we would have done better, obviously, had it not happened. But as far as like threats, I mean, the only thing that really keeps me up at night is just considering, the possibility of a severe economic downturn. That's, we all read the same papers, maybe, I don't know, but, something could happen and it could get bad, but I don't see that coming. But I do worry about it like everyone else does. And I think that's the biggest threat to our business, the way I see it. I mean, companies, businesses, a lot of them love their signage. I'm not sure people would sign up for, we're going to put this size rectangle LED on the building, and then whatever changes we have of customer, we're just put a new sign, they'll just run a new sign on it. I don't know. I don't know that that's really ever going to happen. I guess it could. I suppose there's segments or buildings or, developers that will want to do that. I don't know. I haven't seen it yet. So yeah, I don't see a lot of technology coming that's gonna, change how people use signage. So yeah, just more economic, related concerns.
Very good. Jason, your thoughts?
Yeah, I'd have to agree with Dawn on that one where, everybody needs a sign. If you're going out of business or you're going into business. So yeah, I don't see a big threat to this type of business at all. I mean, you only need less than 1% of the marketplace and you'll be very successful. So, that's what sold me on getting into the business in the first place. When you're driving around and you see all the signs out there, Jack told me a long time ago, that's 2% of all the signs that are out there. Well, if you're driving around, you see that many signs and that's only 2%. There's a lot of business out there.
So you mean the exterior signs?
Yeah.
There's so many inside. Yeah, exactly. Very good. Jack, you were around or part of Signworld during the last recession. So to the point about the economic downturn and just any threats you see to the business, what are your thoughts?
Well, even before that, I was through 9/11 when the world shut down for a good portion of the year. We were working 18-hour days making God Bless America signs. Every yard around us, we did 20,000 for one church signs. So the beauty of the sign business is that there's so many different niches and categories. Your biggest threat is if you're so pigeonholed in one category. I think the owners in the 08 period, because of the housing market, the ones that got hurt the most were so devoted to the housing market, and they weren't diversified enough to have other types of customers along with it. So I think that's really the only threat, is that you fall into one category and try and do one type of thing. Through COVID, the ones that were so dedicated to trade show business got hurt because they didn't have enough diversity to other types of signs, because during COVID, we were making other things. So the biggest threat is just not getting too pigeonholed in any one category.
Very good. All right, let's go to our next guest. Brian, if you can take yourself off of mute, tell the group where you're from and go ahead with the question.
Hey guys, my name is Brian Dickey. I live in Prosper, Texas. It's about 45 minutes north of Dallas, Texas. My question for you is, how did you know that you were going to be, with your diverse backgrounds, how did you know that you were going to be successful in the signage business?
Great question. How do your skills transfer from that former role? Well, it does. You kind of said in the beginning, you didn't think it was going to be relevant, and where's your thoughts at? I mean, what do you think you're using today in your current role that, or as a business owner, that you acquired through your years in your previous career?
I'm kind of doing the same things I used to do in my previous career. I just tend to, people we all navigate. What's the word I'm looking for? Anyway, we typically find ourselves, kind of doing the same things and gravitating to the same things. So, but so the business I had before, we were doing printing, there was graphics and design, there was sales involved. We had, it was all the same things. For me, it was at least it started in a 5,000 square foot, my last place, with a few employees and what we'll call light industrial setting. So it's all the same. It's just signage instead of this other thing. So I think it's everything just transferred over, including my kind of resistance to wanting to really get into I'm not the guy that's going to be out in the truck installing a sign. That's not me, so I wasn't out running the press before either. And if you think negatively of me before, too bad. I mean, I am what I am. So, but I like to support those people, and I like to find those people and nurture them and give them an opportunity to be successful, because they're the ones who gravitate to that type of work. And so that, that's my, I think if there's anything great about how I go about things, it's finding great people and then giving them the resources and the blowing wind in their sails and watching it go, so I'm not sure that answers the question, but
no, it's good perspective. Jason, how about you? What do you feel you're applying from your former career, and how does it apply today?
Well, one of the things, the reason why I got involved with this is the fact that I work for a locally owned company for almost 20 years, managing it, and enjoyed the fact that we had 16 employees. He decided to retire in 2017, and I was offered a position with the new company in a high-level executive position, and found out that that's not what I wanted to ever do again. Meetings to have meetings, just to have meetings. One of the things that I liked about this type of business is the fact that, you can have 4 or 5 employees and do over $1 million a year in sales, and you can mentor those employees. And that really, just kind of more intrigued me more than anything. And that's the reason why I gravitated towards it. This time 2 years ago, I couldn't tell you the difference between a channel letter sign and a monument sign. That's obviously changed. And you learn quick. But I don't know how to run my equipment either. I don't want to learn how to run it. I want to know how it works, but that's not my role. My role is to steer this ship and make it go forward and make the company successful.
Very good. Thank you, Jason. Don, your thoughts?
There was never a thought that we wouldn't be successful. Teresa and I been married 42 years, have 4 sons, did a lot of things together. She's the detail person. I'm the thinker, and we've been successful in everything we've done, from personal to business wise. So There was never a thought. A matter of fact, she quit her job, I quit my job, and as Cortez did, we burned the ships, and there was no going back. So, by hook or by crook, we were going to make it successful. So,
Determination, absolutely. Jack, your thoughts?
You know, I think first you got to do the homework to understand what the business is like. You got to compare yourself to others to see if they can do it, can you do it? And as Don said, you got to believe in yourself. You've got to have that motivation that failing's not an option. Get out of my way, I'm coming. And then stay connected to the rest of the system to have all these mentors around you. It's not just the corporate staff, it's all these owners that have bought into this culture. If you stick with it, the ones that succeed are the ones that stay connected, and the ones that are challenged are the ones that try and do it on their own.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. You know, you think about the backgrounds that you all heard today and their introductions, you know, every owner comes from very different diversified backgrounds. So we do have, you know, a large majority through manufacturing and engineering, but you heard telecom and some manufacturing with some of the others, but we got finance and sales and teachers and military. The reality is we have lots of backgrounds that have been very successful in this business. So I think it's more a matter of, you know, you just having the confidence in yourself and the willingness to learn and learn from others and be honest with yourself. When you don't know, ask. To Jack's point, you know, reach out to the network, reach out to us. There are tons of training and support sessions on every topic of the business. So I think that's really key, is being willing to be a learner of the business too. All right, let's go to our next guest. Carl, if you can take yourself off mute, tell the group where you're from and give us a question for today.
This is Carl Winter. I'm currently in St. Louis, but I'm mobile. I just sold my business a couple of months ago and looking to do something else. Trying to decide whether to buy an existing franchise business or start from scratch. And on that note, most of you guys have mentioned that you've done several years of double-digit growth, or you've had double-digit growth for many year periods. Who are you taking market share away from?
Great question.
The business doesn't grow double-digit, so who are you killing, basically?
Well, actually, there is market growth. If you do any of the Moody's or any of the, you know, independent surveys or studies out there, the sign and graphics industry is continuing to grow. So that's the, you know, beauty of this business, is as population increases and business counts increase, so does the need for signage. But to your question, who is the competition? And I see Don raising his hand. He loves this question. So Don, who are you taking business from?
everybody. I mean, I think you'll find out that, if you haven't heard the statistic yet, that if you add all the known sign companies, Signorama, Fast Sign, Signs by Tomorrow, et cetera, you add them all up, their market share is less than 10%. This company is dominated by contractors. So I have to ask everybody on the call a question. Have you ever hired a contractor to work on your house? Everybody's raising their hand, yes. And every time you hired the contractor, they statused you on everything. They were always on time. They were always on budget, and they were always there for you whenever you made a phone call to them, right? No, everybody put your hands down now. Okay. You're dealing with contractors. You're dealing with people who are sign people who are trying to run a business. We are business people trying to run a sign company. It's a lot easier to run a sign company than it is to run a business, right? So we status all the time. We follow up with the customers. We, you know, they know when we're going to be there. We treat them like corporate America would treat them, I guess is what I'm saying. You won't find that with the guy that you're competing on that works out of his basement, doesn't have insurance, or he's got, you know, one employee and he's got to get a deposit on a job to be able to pay for the materials before he can actually produce the job. That's who we're competing against. That's who we're killing. And they're going out of business, you know, but at the end of the day, you know, there's so much market share, as Jeannie said, out there, it's growing. I mean, how many, you know, 20 years ago, you see, you know, graphics on tables in restaurants, or, you know, or the window graphics, or how many car wraps did you see? This industry is growing, and there's different ways to use graphics, and it's up to us to be able to, you know, tell a customer, you know, the best way to, you know, use their brand and get their name across there. And so, I mean, it's just continuing to grow, not just from a market share standpoint, but yeah, we're putting probably a lot of people out of business, but you know, it's the game of business, right?
Can I ask a follow-up question?
Go ahead, Carl.
Don, you got 6 million in sales, or you're going to do 6 million. Is there any capabilities in your equipment that you don't have that you can't deliver on? I mean, there's a basic package, and there's all these CNC machines and things that you have, the different types of materials. But is there anything? What is the minimum required to be able to, as you say, kick ass and not turn down
I mean,
customers?
you can go ahead and outsource everything. I mean, we outsourced everything except when we first got our equipment, we were doing, the printer, the laminator, the cutter, right? Which you can do car wraps and everything else like that. And if we had dimensional letters or channel letters, we'd outsource them. When we were doing enough dimensional letters or channel letters, we would buy the machinery and bring it in-house, right? That's the decision that you can make, but you can do $6 million if you have a great network of suppliers and subcontractors to be able to do that. I just choose to do it myself in-house because I can control it then, and I can deliver to the customer without having to worry that channel letter guy down the street's too busy and he can't get it to me for a month. Or the installer that I'm hiring, the contractor that I'm hiring to install the sign, doesn't like working in the rain. I can control that myself. And that's why I do it all in-house, except for formed pan faces, because I don't have $300,000 to buy the ovens and stuff to do that. But everything else, 98% of the stuff is done in-house.
Very
Thank you.
good. Thank you, Don. Let's go to Des next. Des, two-part question. How are you beating your competition and continuing to grow your business? Who are you getting that market share from? And capabilities. When you first started, did you have the same capabilities you have today? And how did you outsource and make that decision?
Yeah, well, I think I agree with Don on, when we got into this business, there are 20 or so competitors locally within our city, really. So how are we going to distinguish ourselves between them? And the answers were all actually a lot easier than we thought they might be. One is, once we got into web marketing and we started promoting our website, we were one of the only companies that was actually spending money to do that. The others were just, they'd been around a long time, they'd had a website, they've got some name recognition, maybe a little market recognition, but they weren't doing anything to actively promote themselves. So we got quickly in front of all them, and we became, number one on most of the relevant search terms. We were the number one or number two answer within, a pretty short time. I'm not sure if that's something that can be done in your market. I think, I probably got in right at a time where that was about to take off, where that became a necessity for sign companies, where it wasn't probably before. The other thing is kind of what Don was saying. I mean, just like blocking and tackling, just doing it right, answering the phone, getting back to people, answering questions, being there when you say you're going to be there, doing the job exactly the way you said you were going to do it at the price you said you were going to do it, just being honest and properly engaged with the customer. And that's just not something that is done a lot. Like Don was saying, a lot of the sign companies, at least that we know, they're second generation, sometimes maybe more, or they're just maybe somebody who likes to make signs or install them, who now is and they think they're in the sign business and they're doing all these other things, when really all they have any competency is in certain areas of the sign business. So I think, I think it's just really a matter of just stick to the principles of good business, and you should find yourself on top of the local heap. As far as equipment, we're pretty good at adopting. We've got a CNC router. We've got some things here that we build signs here. We do our channel letter bending sometimes, not all the time. There are times where we outsource, times when we don't. I think we're making more things now than I'd say half of what we sell, we make in-house, probably more than that, actually. And that number's likely going to grow. We're going to go get UL certified and go after some more electrical signs. We're just doing, ADA signs now, where we weren't doing that before with Braille and the other things. So yeah, I'm not sure we ever want to, we're ever going to be doing 100% of everything we sell. But that number is a growing number, and I think, as Don said, you could have a big sign company without making anything, just outsourcing everything to great wholesalers who just pick really good partners, and I think you could do really well that way too. So, yeah.
Very good. Thank you, Des. Jason, pretty new in the business. How are you stealing away from the competition and being successful? And talk about your capabilities.
Well, the stealing comes from Signworld from the very beginning, where you get to plagiarize everybody. So I get to plagiarize Don Conklin right now. Answer the phone, answer the phone, answer the phone. That's how you're going to do it. That large contract that I got for the apartment complex, that guy had been looking for 6 months for a sign company. I was the only one that called him back or that answered the phone. And it turned into $100,000 project. That's how you win. It's simple.
And as far as capabilities, obviously you're a newer operation, so you're outsourcing a lot. Maybe you can talk a little bit about that for the participants on the call today. As a new operation, how do you support customers no matter what their needs are?
Through local and regional and national companies. I've got a great resource of fabricators and installers here in Orlando that I utilize for any of the outdoor stuff. The only piece of equipment that I have bought outside of the original package, I did get the rollover table to begin with, is I bought a roll-to-roll laminator. You know, you really need to have both of those, in my opinion. They have different capabilities, but both of them are significant in both, you know, in the operation. But yeah, for the most part, I mean, there are several owners that I know of in the Signworld industry that they outsource everything. They don't do anything at all. They just outsource it all, and that's all they do. So you can do it.
Yeah, definitely a wide variety for sure. Thank you, Jason. Jack, your thoughts? And I know you got a slideshow to start as well.
I've got 3 slideshows we're going to show in the background. They have no audio. They'll just be able to view them while we're having conversation. The first slideshow goes showing facilities inside and out, so you can see what they look like. Second slideshow goes to what can you produce with the initial equipment? What do you need to outsource through your equipment, along with the third part of that slideshow showing some unusual things you wouldn't even think of as a sign. The third slideshow goes to some of our wall of fame showing the bigger projects. So the other thing I'd like to add to what you're talking about is in the beginning, you're taking smaller projects away from the inept mom and pops that are around you. But as you grow and you get to Dez's position and Don's position, you're going after bigger customers. The way that happens is, as you grow bigger, you start to ignore some of the smaller customers. And that's what some of your bigger competition is doing. The only way they can continue to grow bigger is to ignore their smaller customers, which become your new bigger customers. So you move in and you kind of slide up the scale.
Very good. Thank you, Jack. All right, let's go to our next participant for a question while he starts the slideshow here. Greg, if you can take yourself off of mute and go ahead with a question for the group today.
Yes, hello. My name is Greg Lynch. I'm, comparatively speaking, Brian's neighbor. I'm here in Dallas, Texas. I think my question for all of you is a little bit broader. If you had to pick one thing, what's the one thing you didn't know before you went into business that you wish you had?
Great question. There's always some pretty consistent questions. That's a pretty good one. Let's start with you, Don. Don, what's the one thing you wish you would have known getting into this business to start with that you didn't know?
That opening any new business would be 2 years of hell. And I say that jokingly, but it will be 2 years of hell. And it's not because it's difficult. It's because you don't know what you don't know. You may have been an expert in whatever you've been doing for the last couple of years, but you don't know anything about science. So even though it's not rocket science, you still don't know what you don't know until you get into it. And so for those 2 years, it's the fear of the unknown at that point in time. So did I not have fun? I had a lot of fun in those 2 years, but at the end of the day, there was always that, are we doing the right thing? Will this work? Won't this work? Who do I trust kind of thing until you get established and your feet under you from that standpoint.
Very good. Thank you, Don. Jason, how about you? Biggest thing you've learned that you didn't know before?
Well, again, because of the Signworld organization, they prepare you pretty good in letting you know that you're opening your own business, and if you think you're going to be opening your doors and the money's going to start flowing in, this is not the right fit for you. I tell people all the time, I think it's kind of like having a kid. I'm not the first one to do it. I won't be the last one to do it. You hope you don't kill it in the first couple of years. And then it learns to walk and talk, and then, you know, it goes off to school, and then sometimes it'll go off to college, and then you can kick it out of the house. And so, you know, that's kind of the way I look at opening this business. So there's a lot of learning curve that first year. You know, and again, like Don said, you don't know what you don't know. You wear a lot of hats. You know, you wake up in the middle of the night, you know, going, oh my God, what did I do? But at the end of the day, you know, the more you do for the business, the owner actually appreciates it. So
There you go. And I got to say, I've been doing these webinars for several years now, and I've heard this question. I've never heard the analogy of the kids. So that was a fantastic answer. Des, how about you? What's the one thing that you wish you would have known about the business before you started?
I agree with them on the stay the course part, but I already knew that going in with the previous business that I wanted to quit after 2 years and shut it down. And I'm so glad I didn't. Same thing here. It was hard, and that we all know, I think. For me, I'll go back to just the power of web marketing and being consistent in your investment in that area. That's what's going to come back and provide, you know, what you need in terms of new customers.
There you go. Thank you, Des. Jack, any comments?
You know, what I'd add to that, in most businesses, and we've all been in different businesses, well, we had customers. There's a gap between one and the next because not everybody needs your service or your product. This is different. No customer should be a dead end in this world, because a restaurant that only needs one sign has a landlord that needs 10. The landlord has a tenant that needs 100. The tenant has a supplier needs 1,000. You may not know those big repetitive users, but if leveraging the power of people that already believe in you is huge. Sometimes we get so busy chasing the internet stranger, and yet the best lead source is a person that already believes in us. You get us to somebody else.
Very good. Appreciate that, Jack. All right, let's go to our next participant. Andy, if you can take yourself off of mute, tell the group where you're from, and go ahead with your question.
Hello, I'm Andy Jellum. I'm from Salem, Utah, which is about an hour south of Salt Lake. My question is kind of a two-part. First off, how difficult was it to start up? And when did you finally start seeing some revenue, some cash flow that you could start paying yourself?
All right, well, I hate to continuously defer to Don to go first, but Don, you said it was 2 years of hell. So how hard was it? And when did you start seeing some money?
Oh, it wasn't that hard. No, it was, I will tell you, I never worked we've worked 3 Saturdays in 12 years, right? And those Saturdays were half days. We typically get in at 7:30, typically leave by 5. So from that standpoint, you know, I figure if I'm working more than 50 hours a week, I probably need to hire someone else. As far as break even, we broke even in our second month, out the door, a cash on cash break even. You know, started getting a steady paycheck after 6 months, and, you know, didn't look back after that.
Okay. Des, how about you? How hard was it to get started, and when did you break even?
Oh, the first year was tough, and I think we made it tougher by not investing in web marketing, because it just wasn't a thing at that time as far as what we were talking about in our Signworld training and all those things. It was just early on. So yeah, that, you know, so I waited, you know, a year before I got into that, and that takes time to come through. So it was really 2.5 years before we started getting cash flow positive. And I was, you know, I held back on when I needed to start taking a paycheck, and I never really took a lot of money out of the business. But it was around year 3 that I actually started, you know, taking, you know, kind of a normalized salary. So yeah.
So Des, going back to the previous question, the question you wish you would have known is, had you invested more in internet marketing to start with, you would have got to those numbers faster.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
Absolutely. Very good. Jason, how about you?
We're outside of the beginning of this last year. We've been pretty steady through the year. Our P&L was right at break even. I started taking a small salary in August of this year. So basically almost a year after I opened my doors is when I started taking a small salary. So that's where we are right now.
And Jason, if I remember correctly, you have a little bit bigger space, so you have a little bit higher overhead. When were you break even on, sales covering the expenses? I understand you weren't taking a paycheck, but as far as cash flow positive.
In March of 2023, we were actually, that was kind of where we were breaking even every single month from that point forward. And with a little bit extra, that I could start taking a salary. But I hired a second guy probably a little bit sooner than I probably should have. But again, listening to other owners, I'm glad I did. We got some projects in here that, I couldn't go out and help. My time is more valuable to be here selling than it is to be out trying to install. And so I actually hired another guy, been great. He works part-time for the most part when it's not busy. So I get that luxury. And then I've got another full-time guy that he's been in the business for 20 plus years, and he's a rock star. So I've been very blessed in that arena.
Very good. Thank you, Jason. Jack, your thoughts?
Average break even cash on cash on a monthly basis is 6 months. People have done customer interface and to do a little bit sooner. The true engineers take a little bit longer. Modest income year one, better year two. Most sign will tell you back to corporate income within a couple of years.
Very good. Thank you, Jack.
And replacing the value that they had to go through during that time.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's go to our last participant for a question. I believe Adam, if you can, actually you are unmuted. If you can just tell the group where you're located and go ahead with the question.
Yeah, I'm in Orange County, California, Costa Mesa. And I currently work for an entertainment advertising agency in Los Angeles. I do most of my work remotely, but I'm, like I said, here in Orange County. Don't have a whole lot of questions. Part of it was, the last question I asked when we had the other webinar. I can't remember the gentleman's name. He was with Caliber Printing, I believe. But, part of my concern was that, here I'm in Orange County and I look at Caliber and they're doing everything. And that guy is one of the most organized people I've ever seen, just looking at all the stuff he has with his envelopes, and his whole system of production was really right on. And I was a little like, well, shoot, what's going to happen if I open up a sign shop in Orange County? I can't compete with that. But he seemed to think that, look, there's plenty of business. There's nothing keeping you from making money. And I like what Jack said a little earlier in regards to, look, they're probably doing projects that they don't want to do. So working into it, I can be doing these smaller projects. So that kind of made me feel more comfortable with setting something up here in Orange County. Yeah.
Yeah, so just to kind of piggyback on that, Adam, I appreciate you calling that out. So that's Martin Neal that you're referring to.
That's
so
right.
On the call, just to share who you're speaking of. But each of you owners are in markets where there are other Signworld owners. Des in Greensboro, I believe there's 4 of you. Jason in Orlando, I believe there's 5 or 6. Don, Atlanta, I think you're close to 20. What are your thoughts about another Signworld operation opening up in your market? What be open and honest with what your thoughts are on that. Jason, let's start with you.
It's fantastic. The camaraderie you have, this industry it's not like, and I still have to wrap my head around it more than I can, just because it's so foreign to me. It's more collaborative than it is competitive. I've got other sign companies that are not part of the Signworld organization that will send me business because they can't do it. They don't want to let the customer down, but they don't have the time to do it. And it's a small enough job where they know that I'll take it. And then those jobs have actually turned into large jobs. From doing some simple window graphics to now we're doing channel letter signs for them. So you just never know where this business is going to go. But as far as the having another Signworld owner in town, it's fantastic. If I run out of something or if they need something, we can do it. I've got a good relationship with all of them here.
Good. Des, how about you in Greensboro? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, when I opened, I think we've had 2 maybe open in Greensboro since I opened. But I think it's all been good, you know. It's like they become friends, and you collaborate on, you do projects together. We do, you know, we do wholesale work, bucket truck stuff. We have a bucket truck, they don't, you know, we help them out. I know one of the owners is coming in here tomorrow, Pat, to talk about, he's switching over to shop box from Corbridge, and our guys, you're gonna talk with our guys about it, and you know, just go over. So it's just nice to have, you know, you're gonna have a competitor. If that person opens a sign company, it's good, it's better to know them and to be friendly with them than to not. So, you know, I think our markets are all, you know, big enough to withstand, you know, more guys jumping in. So, yeah, I don't think it's ever, I would never have considered it. I've never had a situation where I felt like I lost a big project to Pat, you know. You know, we swim in different parts of the city, and we don't seem to be, you know, going after the same stuff for the most part. And I don't know, it's been good. Like I said, the friendships are outweigh whatever the competitive losses might be.
Very
So
good.
you guys you've never really had a conflict. I guess it's to you, Jack, where you had to come in and resolve some type of thing because you have two Signworld, you know, members that are having a conflict with each other. It seems like that just doesn't happen.
There are no rules, so
I'll defer to Jack on that one. Jack, have you ever had a?
I'm trying to think of one. You know, I think one of the stories I think is interesting. We have a Signworld owner in St. Louis that had a very large customer, and then another Signworld owner joined, who was the brother-in-law of the owner of that company.
Uh-oh.
And they decided how to share the customer.
Okay.
Because while the one was doing a lot of work for that company, he wasn't doing all their work. He was taking care of certain departments, and the other one took over the other departments.
Wow.
It's very collaborative. Don, what about Atlanta? You got a whole lot of you there. You're pretty much landlocked with each other.
As we say in the South, we got a whole mess of Signworld owners here in Atlanta. So, I think there's been 13 new ones since I started. I've trained, I think, every one of them. I stop by their shops to see how they're doing. We do some wholesale fabrication for some of them. You know, there's one guy in Atlanta who always gets upset when a new Signworld guy opens up in Atlanta. And I had to sit him down once, and I said, "Hey, listen, you know how many Signworld owners there are in Atlanta?" "How many?" I said, 20. I said, "You know how many sign companies there are in Atlanta?" "How many?" 500. You're going to worry about one more Signworld owner? I mean, really?
Yeah.
Again, target rich environment. So the other part about it, what you'll find if you guys are in corporate America and you're starting a company on your own, it's a very lonely business because you're your own person, right? You can't go down the hallway to the HR, your friend in HR and bitch and moan about the boss, and you know, that collegial kind of relationship. That's who the other Signworld owners there, because every one of us can, you know, we'll have drinks at a convention and say, we'll swap war stories, right? It's like the old scene in Jaws where they're showing their scars on Jaws. They say, "This one."
Yeah.
And so it's like, "So what's the most money you ever lost because you were stupid?" And we all try to one up each other. So,
That's not one you want to win, though, right, Don?
yeah, but unfortunately, I have won that one. But you know, and I'll go back to Signworld. It's a great opportunity because there's no franchise fee, right? $6 million. If I had to pay 8% in royalties, I'd give $500,000 for nothing, right? Because there's no brand power in the sign industry. Signworld's beautiful. I mean, they give you, and they're not paying me to say this, by the way. They give you the equipment, the knowledge, the training, the know-how, and the access to the network of owners and the network of suppliers. And that's it. Okay. A business in a box. And it's up to you to do whatever it is. I mean, I could go ahead and there's some people that do nothing but wraps, and they love doing that. We like being generalists. We love doing that, but it's up to you. There's no corporate direction that you have to worry about.
Very good, Don. Jack, did you want to say something?
One more comment to this, Adam. If we were a franchise, you'd be confined to your territory and you wouldn't associate with each other. But the culture of Signworld is that we built into this peer network of everybody helping each other.
Yeah.
So we're not competitive with each other. We're collaborative. We need each other's help more than we want to take away that one customer.
No.
And one last point I'll make is, I live in I know how big Orange County is, about what, 1.5 million people?
Yeah.
I mean,
I think
I'm in
so.
Gwinnett County, which is the most populous county in Georgia, which is about 1.1 million. Do you know how I do less than 10% of my business in Gwinnett County? I mean, I'm doing it around Atlanta. I'm doing it, nationwide. I'm shipping signs all over the place. I'm having other sign. Last year, I haven't in the final count, but I wrote checks to 60 different Signworld owners last year because they were receiving product I was shipping them and they were installing it at my customers' locations in their territory. So, don't think territory. This is a national type of opportunity for you. And again, like I said, 10% of my business happens in what I would call my territory, right? And you can always go south. I hear there's a lot of business in San Diego County too.
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
All right, very good. Well, I do see we are 1 minute before the hour, so I'm going to use this opportunity to pause and conclude our session for today. So first, before we do, Jason, Des, and Don, thank you very much for taking time out of your busy days to share your thoughts, share your honest perspectives with these participants on the call. We really, really appreciate you guys doing that for us.
Thank you.
For our participants, thank you for joining us today. Thanks for the interest in learning more about Signworld. The corporate team looks forward to those continued conversations with you to help you identify if this is the right path for you going forward and the next venture in your life. With that, I hope everybody has a great rest of your Wednesday, a great rest of the month of January. Adam, I see a raised hand. Did you want to go ahead and say something?
Yeah, just real quick. And I'm not sure. I have to check my emails, but did you guys say there was going to be another on-site one where you're actually go to? And if so, when was that?
Yeah, we have our next on-site Discovery Day, Friday, January 19th, which is a fantastic opportunity. We do 3 live operation tours with 3 facilities in that market. We go to our corporate headquarters, our training center, and we do a sit down with a bunch of owners and have a more Q&A session like this, overview of the equipment where you see it all in person, overview of the internet marketing, and we wrap up with a great dinner where we have even more owners participate. So it's a great opportunity, not just to see the business, but to meet the people, meet the corporate team, meet other owners. So yeah, definitely encourage you to attend that if you're able to. And for those participants who are on the call who may not know about that yet, but would like to know more, please talk to whoever you're working with on the development side. But again, in closure, thank you all for joining today. We appreciate your time and interest and hope you all have a great rest of your week. Take care.
Thanks, guys.